Welcome, everybody, all of the early birds who are watching the show. We're glad to be back. We've been on a little hiatus. So, today for episode 51, we have a very special guest with us today. His name is piano player Bill Mays, and his career as a professional musician spans over the last 60 years and includes a multitude of musical endeavors. Following 4 years as a bandsman in the U.S. Navy, Bill spent 15 years as a session player in the Hollywood studios, and in 1984 he relocated to New York City, firmly establishing himself as an in-demand sideman and leader of his own ensembles. He has worked with jazz legends such as Benny Golson, Shelly Manne, Red Mitchell, Gerry Mulligan, Bud Shank, Frank Sinatra, the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, Sarah Vaughan, and Phil Woods. Nobody good. And his many recordings as a leader, solo, duo, trio, and sextet are well documented on the Chiroshiro, Concord, DMP, Palmetto, and Steeplechase record labels. So today, the West Coast Jazz Hour welcomes Bill Mays. Welcome, Bill, to the show.
Hi. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Great to
of
be.
course. Before we're gonna go into some music, Bill, we always are very interested in hearing from our guests. Why was it that you moved out to LA? So, where are you from originally? Why did you move out to LA? And who were some of the first people who you played with when you came to town?
Well, I'm a native of California. I was born in Sacramento, and I lived my early years in the Los Angeles basin, and then moved to San Francisco in my high school years. Then joined the service and spent 3 years in San Diego. So a long involvement with California. And after I got out of the Navy, I lived in San Diego for 4 years and then moved to Los Angeles in 69. And the first person that I played with in Los Angeles was four hands at one Steinway piano in Terry Trotter's house.
Mm,
I count pianist Terry Trotter as a dear friend and one of the great piano players, both as a jazz soloist and an accompanist to singers.
Yes.
Um, One of the first people that I played with there in the jazz field, I guess, was Bud Shank and Bobby Shue. I was a member of their bands for several years and made several recordings with them. And I played with Buddy Collette. I played with Red Mitchell, who was in and out of town. And I led bands of my own. I had a trio with guitarist Danny Embry and Putter Smith on bass
Yeah, putter.
Butter.
at one time. And I had a quintet with John Patitucci, who was 16, I think, at the time. He was
Wow.
still in high school in Orange County. And Ted Hawk on drums and Fred Jackson and Steve Hufstetter, I believe, were the two horn players in that band. Yeah, and then I had a band, a long-standing band with Ernie Watts on all the reeds, double and single, and Steve Schaefer was the drummer, and either Abe Laboriel or Bob Magnuson were the bass players, depending on the musical situation.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I did a little bit of touring with Howard Roberts, the guitarist.
Awesome.
Made a record with him, and Howard was in the studios a lot, so he didn't go touring much, but we had some fun times together. And Shelly Manne was somebody I played with and recorded with and was good friends with. And I had a two-piano band with Alan Broadbent, with Fred Atwood on bass and Ralph Humphreys on drums. And that was most of the time Fender Rhodes and acoustic piano,
Did you make
which was
recordings with that two piano band?
no, we never recorded it.
Ah,
No,
I would
it
have
was
loved to.
great fun because we were both writers and arrangers, and so it was.
Yeah.
And then I want to say this, I had a wonderful co-op band I was part of called Road Work Ahead, with the other three guys were from San Diego: guitarist Peter Sprague, drummer Jim Plank, and bassist Bob Magnuson. And we all wrote for the band, and we made 3 records together. The first one for Discovery Records early on. And then after I moved to New York, I went out there and we reunited for a few tours and made 2 more records. And they were great, very close, very dear friends, still are. And it was a lovely band. So
yeah. I just saw Mags and Jim Plank, and well, not Sprague, but I played a duo with Mike Wofford, one of your pals.
Yeah. I know, I heard it. It's a beautiful
yeah
at the Athenaeum, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Thanks, Bill. And they were there, Plank and Mags. It was really great to see him again.
Oh, they were, yeah.
Yeah, good. And I think we'll play something from that group that you sent us a little later.
Oh, yeah. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Walford, you asked who were some of the West Coast people I played with. Mike and I did a 2-piano concert 30 years ago at the Jazz Bakery, which was unearthed a year ago, and it's posted up on, I think it's on YouTube, or at least it's on my site.
Yeah.
And amazingly good recorded quality, and the pianos sound good, and we were in good form. And Mike was one of my earliest pianistic influences when I was in the Navy in San Diego. I used to go hear Mike play. He wasn't much older than I was, 2 years older than I was. And I was just amazed at the maturity and depth of this pianist who was a kid. And he really was an early inspiration. And I purposely copied elements of his playing. I was so taken with it and inspired by him, and still am. And I saw him on the show. You had him on a while back.
Yeah. We had a great time with Mike, and I'm a huge fan, before then, but definitely since talking with him and getting to play with him. And your video of you playing his tune, Bird of Paradise, I just love that. What a hip tune.
Yeah.
Man.
I think they also did a record with Mike's trio that is actually called Bird of Paradise.
That's right. Yeah.
With Gerry and
John
Monty Budwick is on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a great record. And of course, his first one, Strawberry Wine, I know you know about that. With John Doling and John Guerin.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Yeah.
I just wrote out the John Guerin's drum solo on the first tune of that record, Kai Note, because I'm doing a small project next week at the Memphis Drum Shop in Memphis, where they want to do a little segment about West Coast drummers. And the stuff that Guerin plays on that recording is just
insane.
It's so hip. So hip how those guys.
Man, I'd like to see that. I'll trade you a couple of solos for that. I'd like to see that. John Guerin, I got to play with John a lot. I played in Tom Scott's LA Express, some live gigs that we did at the Baked Potato, a club that I think is still going out there.
Yep.
And I played with John on a lot of studio dates, and I was just always impressed with his versatility and his, he was like Steve Gadd, just to make one comparison, in that you could start playing something on the piano and say, get a groove going, get something going that works on this. And he'd come up with something unbelievably musical and notable,
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I had a little time with Guerin.
Oh, did you?
In Mike Barone's band, which I think you played in too.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe the year before John died, I got to hang with him a bit, and
I'm the guy.
I'm really,
band
really,
for years.
Just was totally digging his playing, and get this, Bill, his grandson Graham is the bass player in my combo at USC.
Oh.
And he never got to meet him because he was like 1 year old when he passed.
Yeah.
So,
same last name?
Guerin. Yeah.
Graham Guerin. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, Graham Guerin. And he's a great bass player. He's totally melodic, and he's like checking out his grandfather's stuff. And we were talking about Strawberry Wine, and pretty cool, that connection, that legacy, Yeah.
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 Yeah, and then his stuff on Joni Mitchell's records. So
right.
Right.
Court and Spark. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Well, shall we get into a little music?
I think we
What do you
should.
think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We heard that I don't see if he's on it just yet, but we heard from Matt Wilson that he was going to be on. So are we going to start with that? With
Yeah.
Music House?
What if we start with that? We were going to play that great video of live with your trio, Martin Wind and Matt Wilson, Music House.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm in the music house. It's very cool. The first tune I wrote in the new music house. It used to be a garage.
Ah, okay.
So it's fitting.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Well, music house. Yeah, that's from a TV broadcast we did years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go just do the whole.
Yeah. Like that.
Okay, here we go.
Music House.
A little bit fuzzy, but
Yeah. Sounds good though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Wow.
burning,
Just an incredible
burning.
performance from all of you guys on that.
Thank you. That was a fun trio.
Wow.
Mhm. And
Sure is.
Matt is watching this interview right now. He says
Hey,
hi.
Matt. Hey, Matt. Hi. Miss
Love
you. Love you, brother.
Matt Wilson. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's an example of people who have transcended the technical aspects of the music and are tuned in on such a deep level. As you heard on a lot of that track, it's wide open, it's free. We're playing off the mood of the tune. We're playing off the line that I wrote, which has elements actually of, I'm part Cherokee Indian, believe it or not, and it actually has some kind of elements of that
Yeah.
in it. I think I was sort of channeling a little bit from my mother's side there, but I loved playing with those guys. I put it in the past tense because we're not working together at these days,
Mhm.
but will again. But I love playing with them because they were such great listeners, and to me, it was always like co-creating. I never liked to play in a trio situation where I'm just being accompanied.
Right. Yeah. That's an incredible
I
dialogue.
expect and need the co-creation
Yeah,
from
same. I feel the
the
same way. Yeah.
yeah.
And that we were speaking about one of our favorite Herbie Hancock records earlier, Inventions and Dimensions, and there was some
Yeah.
shades of that in your playing, and almost kind of Charles Ives, the different, man, I just love your concept. You to me are just like the most well-rounded pianist, and one foot in the past and one foot in the future, but always in the present, man. I just really dig your playing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Charles Ives. I loved Ives.
I'm sure you did. I'm a huge fan, man.
His granddaughter lived across the street from me on 70th in New York.
Whoa.
I was up on the 5th floor as she was across the street. And one day I was out on the street and she said, "You're the guy that plays the piano up there, right?" And I said, "Yeah, and you?" She said, "Well, I live across from you. I can see you and I can even hear you
Mhm.
sometimes when the window's open." She said, "Do you know who Charles Ives was?" I said, "Well, of course." She said, "I'm his granddaughter."
Wow.
Only in New York,
That's
right?
incredible. Well, didn't
Right.
he live in Gramercy Park at one point?
He may have.
I think he did. I went looking for his, where his residence, and it wasn't there anymore. But
I didn't know that
incredible,
he lived in New York, but of course he was a Hartford
right?
insurance
Incredible,
executive and made his living that way because his music was so far out that he couldn't get enough gigs doing what he was doing. But
right?
certainly it's stood the test of time, and it's great to see young musicians getting hip to Charles Ives now,
Yeah,
incorporating some of his thought processes in their presentation.
yeah, absolutely. Checking in with some of our guests here. A very good friend and very talented flutist, Lori Bell, is here.
Yeah. Hi, Lori.
Yeah, she says, I don't know if you remember, but I recorded Midnight Song for Thalia, your tune with pianist Dave McKay and bassist Andrew
Hi.
Sipkins. Love your playing and writing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
good to hear your name again.
Mhm.
I remember that
I
version.
wanted to chime in on something that you just said right after we showed the trio performance, because you were saying something about like transcending, like if I'm not mistaken, transcending technique and just, like being open and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems that that trio is all about that, being open and being listening and, being musical to the fullest extent, basically. Can
Right.
you can you tell a little bit about your insights about what you're thinking, what your thoughts are on getting to that kind of level or state of mind when you're playing?
Well, in my own case, I think it's having played and listened to tons of a great variety of music. And so it all comes into the musical soup that's in my, not just in my head, but my hands and in my heart, more importantly.
Hmm.
So that when I'm playing, I'm just, I go for a sound,
Hmm.
or I go for a color, and that spins off into something else. And I can't point back and say, well, that came from Charles Ives, or that's, but that's monkish. But it's all part. I mean, I'm really a painter. I mean, that's an old cliche, but I really feel like I'm a painter when I play on a soundscape
Sure.
designer.
Yeah.
And I'm because I'm a writer, as an arranger and a composer, I think that way at the piano. That's why I use the whole keyboard, and I'm often, thinking woodwind choir here at this moment, or string section at this moment. So I think the goal, a good goal for any musician, improvising musician, is to just listen and absorb as much music as you possibly can, even if you don't really understand it at the moment, and maybe even if you don't really dig it. It took me a while to get into Witold Lutoslawski, but I've been listening a lot to him. And it's hard going sometimes, but there's such depth there that I want to stay with it
Mm.
and get it all,
Yeah, that's one wise words.
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
question.
Yeah.
Cool. Something else? Should
Yeah,
we
we
play?
should move on to something. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, you want to go back in
Um,
time a little further?
I think we should. Maybe so. Well, you were mentioning that you worked early on in your career here in L.A. with Bud Shank, so maybe we'll play something of that
Yeah.
because that's
Bud and I, well, we were in the studios together, and our first conversations and shared interest was sailing. He was an
Oh,
avid sailor, owned several boats, and bless him, he sailed single-handedly from Marina del Rey to Maui,
wow,
across the ocean by
oh my goodness.
himself.
wow.
That's what they talk about cojones, man. That, and
Yeah.
I was a sailor and interested in it, and he took me out on his boat several times. So we had sailing in common, and we used to do studio dates together, mostly film and television. And Bud played the flute beautifully. He gave it up later in his career. But at one point early on, well, it was 1979, he said, Claude Bolling has written these suites for cello and suites for flute and suite, blah, blah, blah. I'd like you to do one for me. So I wrote a suite, a 5-movement suite for him, and piano. And his flute playing was stunning. And it was on a record on Concord called Explorations 1980.
Ah,
And then I played on several of his records, other records, where he just played alto. One was called Heritage. That was a particularly great album.
hmm.
Remember, with Steve Schaefer,
Oh,
drums, and
yeah.
Bob Magnuson.
Oh,
Heritage. And
yeah.
then we had the 2-piano record, Alan Broadbent and I, and again on flute, Bud. It's called Crystal Comments. So Bud was one of those guys that I mentioned earlier, that had a dual career as a successful studio player, but also a jazz musician, and wasn't afraid to turn down some dates and go out on the road and pursue that part of his musical passion.
Wow.
So he was an inspiration to me in many ways.
Yeah.
And then I can't tell this particular story, but with Matt listening in, Matt is chuckling now when I remind him and this story is in my book, which we might mention in a minute, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I was assigned a project from a Japanese producer to do some Beatles tunes with the trio with Matt and Martin, and we had Bud Shank as a guest on 3 tracks.
Oh.
And it was a funny story that went down regarding the use of the click track.
That already sounds funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and that was another example of, Bud could of playing this situation. Bud could come in and do a Johnny Mandel, be in the section for a Johnny Mandel date and blend beautifully and play perfectly in tune and turn around and take a beautiful solo.
Right.
And he was he was a burning alto player too.
Yep.
And sadly, he gave up the flute late in his career. He said, "I don't want to play that." He also hated the clarinet, though he had to play it on studio dates. So I went to visit him once in his retirement at his home in Tucson, Arizona. He had purchased a pickup truck, and the rifle rack was still in the cab of the truck. And in the rifle rack was the clarinet.
Well,
Perfect.
Which
I'll never play that thing again.
What player doesn't hate the clarinet?
Yeah, right. Yeah. The sax doubles, dreaded
exactly.
sax doubles.
Phil Woods was a Juilliard major on clarinet, and I loved his clarinet playing. He didn't play it enough for my taste.
Chris Leap calls the clarinet like you throw the clarinet in a bathtub to like. You use the clarinet as a tuning, and you just throw it in the bathtub. That's what Chris Leap. Something like that is sticking in the back of my brain that Chris Leap said about the clarinet.
Yeah.
It's an instrument that was put together by 3 guys that never met each other.
Yeah. Woo! Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So I think the track with Bud, it's the duo album that you sent us, Quietly.
Oh, A Piece of Mind that I wrote for some friends, Alfred and Joel Quietek. And Quietly is, we did it on that.
Lovely. Well, this is just beautiful. So thank you for sending it, and we're going to share it with you now. This is is it 2007, just a couple years before Bud passed?
I don't remember. I know it's a record called Beyond the Red Door.
Right.
Excuse me. Red Door being the red door that Zoot wrote.
Yeah, exactly. The Red Door is a Zoot Sims original. Yeah.
So this is Beyond the Red Door.
Very nice. Well, here we go. Our very honored guest. We're honored to have him as our guest. Bill Mays with the great Bud Shank and Bill's tune Quietly. heavy, man. What a gorgeous tune
Bravo.
and performance from both of you. I mean,
And the flood of memories.
I'm sure actually just listening, but watching you listen was a workshop too, man.
But Bud was a big kid, you know.
Mm,
He loved his boats, his fast cars, and he was a party animal. He was just a big kid, and his openness to life, his humanity, all of that, you know, makes that sound. What a
right.
sound! What a sound that made.
Oh,
Mhm.
Oh boy. Well,
gorgeous.
thank you for playing that. That
Oh,
was,
thank you for bringing it to our attention. I was just thinking how masterful your solo was, just gorgeous, and your accompaniment for him is so tender and caring.
oh,
You know, just the way you're sculpting and orchestrating, like you were saying, I could hear the woodwinds, I could hear the strings, man. It was just like, just gorgeous playing.
well, you know, it's tricky, you know, as a pianist, when there's no rhythm section, to find the balance of if being supportive and at times feeding, but also not too much,
Right.
letting the soloist take their do their thing. It's a challenge. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Well, it's interesting that you said and that the whole sound of everything is so important to you, and it's you know, it's so obvious that the sound takes such a big role on that recording that you just that we just showed. And Matt, who's still watching, he said these gentlemen are masters of sound. Their sounds hug you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, a lot of love. A lot of love.
Yeah, that's right.
Aren't we fortunate, we musicians, to have music in our lives? I was just thinking about this morning, and it's, you know, it is so true, man. We've got music when the world is insane and falling apart
That's yeah.
around us. To be able to have what we have, oh, I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Pat Senator is also watching from Rome, actually.
Pat, hi. You still owe me $3 from the night in Malibu. I remember, and Anita O'Day, I played at your club with Anita. She still owes me 3 beats. You know, one of the great things about Anita O'Day was the way she sang behind the beat. I swore that night she owed me 2 or 3.
Hey, y'all.
Pat had a great club, for those of you that don't remember it, Pasquale's. It was there right there on the ocean in Malibu. What a lovely guy, and what a great club he had. And I had heard that you'd moved to Rome, so I'll look you up when I'm over there.
I got a lot of time, Bill, with with Pasquale, not at the club in Malibu, but when he was music director at Vibrato, Herb Alpert's club.
Yes.
I learned how to play duo with Pat, and he was very patient with me and taught me tunes, and I call him my jazz grandpa.
That's nice.
I love that guy, man, and his wife Barbara. He's extended family, and yeah, I miss him a lot. We miss him out here in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, Pat.
If he's still with us.
Yeah,
hope
it's
so.
probably pretty late there now. Yeah.
It's coming close to being midnight over
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
Oh, he's just getting rolling.
that's right. That's right. He's a jazz musician, so
Yeah,
you know.
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, where should we go next? I kind of want to play that duo with Red Mitchell that you sent.
Which one's that?
What's it called? Not Kaleidoscope, but
Oh, you mean that old video? That's
the old video.
Klacto Wiesenstein.
That's the one.
Which was a tune Charlie Parker wrote, and he was asked what it meant, and I believe he said it's not a real word, but it was a sound. Klacto Wiesenstein was a sound that he had in his mind. Excuse me. And this was from a television show Red and I did in Los Angeles before I moved to New York. And we did a half hour of all monk tunes and then a half hour of standards, among which was Klacto Wiesenstein, a standard sort. Actually, not a real, it's kind of a rare Charlie Parker tune.
Yeah.
But a wonderful one. And I like this because you can really see Red Mitchell's technique. He was tuning his bass in fifths at the time. And you can see up close his finger technique and how he often used his nails to go across the strings backwards like that.
Yes.
Strumming effect. And what a marvelous player. Playing with Red was like playing with an orchestra, because he was a fine pianist as well as bassist,
sure,
and singer and songwriter, and so he brought all of that to his playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Here we go. Let's go full screen.
Yep.
Hopefully the sound is working.
Yep.
I think it is. Smoking.
What a bass player.
Uh-huh.
Those
Absolutely.
lines, those fast lines.
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
It's interesting to see also like how far up the neck he plays with his
Yeah,
right hand.
that's right.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
interesting technique. Yeah.
Yeah. He's wearing that black turtleneck. I worked a lot with Red, and he always wore the same thing: black pants, black shoes, a black turtleneck, and a red rust-colored jacket. Always. And I said finally, after I got to know him better, Red, you make enough money. How come you always wear the same outfit every night? Any city, any gig. He says, it's one less decision I have to make a day. I have 3 of everything. He says, when I check into a hotel, I get one with a biggest television I can find in the room. I said, you told me you hate television. Why? He says, I turn the television on, get it heated up, and I put my top on there after the gig and to dry it out for tomorrow's performance. Oh, that's just, he was so deep. Red was so, oh boy. You know, he would come over. He lived in Sweden at the time that we worked together in New York, late after this was made. And he would give Bradley's an exclusive. He would promise not to work any other place in New York, and he'd get 6 weeks in a row at Bradley's.
Wow.
Different piano player each week. So he said he would get a room at the Washington Scare Hotel. I didn't mean Washington Square. No, he's the Washington Scare. He says they got the biggest cockroaches in New York City. But Red would come over from Sweden, and so many people knew Red for so many decades, and they'd come to hear us play, whoever he was working with that week. And he would stay after the gig ended at 2:45 and tell stories, hold court until 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, in fact, he was doing a week with Tommy Flanagan there one week, and they held the world's record for the longest hang at Bradley's. They hung until 6 o'clock the next evening, then went home, took a shower, and came back 2 hours later to play that night.
Wow, that is epic.
Oh, Red, boy, did I love him. Man, stories.
Serious hanging.
That is some serious hanging. Wow. That's one club well, there's a lot in LA that I missed, Bradley's I didn't get to see, but out in LA, there's probably a lot of places you played that I never got to go to. Dante's and Chadney's and Carmelo's and Monteleone's West and all those places, Vine Street Bar and Grill. I feel like if I was born just a little earlier, I could have caught some of those places,
You both.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
But then other great clubs came along to take their place. But, I lamented that I got to LA too late to experience, for example, the Central Avenue scene.
Yeah.
That we were on the tail end of it there. And I guess I did get to play with Carmel Jones, who was part of that scene. And I got to play with Harold Land. You'd asked me who I played with out there.
Harold,
that was a high point in my life to play and to get to know Harold Land as a person, a wonderful meditating Buddhist who also loved to play tennis and drink wine, all of which I like to do back in the day before I stopped some of that. I stopped the wine, but not the meditation. But yeah, so that was a very rich time in LA's jazz history, the Central Avenue scene.
Yeah, it sure was.
And I got to, play with Connie Condoli and Bill Perkins, of course, too, and Bob Cooper, who had been the whole Lighthouse All-Star gang.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was one of the first albums that influenced me as an arranger was Howard Rumsey and his Lighthouse All-Stars. They made a lot of records, but there was one in particular that was very influential on my young impressionistic mind. And Claude Williamson was playing piano on that record.
Do you know what the name of that record is?
Howard Rumsey and the Lighthouse All-Stars. No, I'm drawing a blank, but you could identify it by the fact that there's a tune on there called Bud the Whippet Shank. And there's another one called Coop,
Uh-huh.
and another one called something dedicated to Claude. So
Cool.
you'll, yeah.
We'll do our homework, our research. We'll find it. Thank you.
That's one of the finest of that whole
Yeah,
series.
absolutely.
Let's see if we can
Fantastic.
find it.
Taylor is here. Taylor Hatch, who's a student of the music, great guitar player, going to North Texas currently, and he had a couple questions for you. Has he
We
been
did
on?
it. Well, we did this on Kathy
He
Siegel
was there
Garcia's.
too.
He was there, and listen, if it's an arranging question or something like that, do what I did on Kathy's show. Send me an email, and we'll get into it.
Okay. Yes. One of them is that. Now we'll have him email you. One of them is maybe not as much that. Out of all the records you played on, which one had the hardest piece to play on? If you can remember.
Well,
So many records, my goodness. Wow.
yeah, I can't really pull anything out of my
Oh, well,
out
yeah.
of the memory bank right off the bat.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, yeah, I can think of one, and the reason it was hard, it was so poorly copied. Charts by Magellan, if you will. And that brings up an interesting point that I like to talk about at clinics. You know, if you're getting ready to do your record project, have the compassion for the side people to get your parts copied well. I did a record a few months ago that was very scrawly and very small. It was almost everybody in the studio was at wit's end trying to make it out. But fortunately, you know, I've been on some recordings. I did a thing for Benny Golson that was very difficult, but Benny had a beautiful hand. It was a tribute to Bessie Smith, and it was for solo stride piano. It was part of a television show called The Creative Mind.
Wow.
That was very difficult, but to his credit, Benny gave me the music in front, and it was very well copied.
Nice.
So, you know, but I encountered more things that were difficult that I had to assimilate in a quick number of minutes on film dates, you know,
Sure.
television dates where you'd have a part by Jerry Goldsmith or Jerry Fielding. Bad News Bears I played on with Jerry Fielding and had some tough moments in it. But what you do in a situation like that is what you do when you're psyching out a piece of classical music. You look for the hard parts and put in the fingerings that are going to make it more easy. You learn to, you know, give the left hand what the thumb of the right hand might have had. You divide it up, but not too technical, but, you know, tricks that you have to make it come off.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of some of your experience in film music, I'm just bowled over, Bill, by the list on your website, which, by the way, I'll put your website in the chat. People should check out your site. It's so well organized and just so thorough. And there's this one section, if you click on, well, I found it in your long bio. Click here for a full list of film and TV credits. And it's just overwhelming how many TV shows and films you've been a part of over the years. I'm a huge film music nut. I mean, I'm Goldsmith, Elmer Bernstein, and Franz Waxman, and Miklos Rozsa, all the greats I'm a fan of. But just looking at this is just so very cool. And another era I kind of wish I was around to be able to have been working and doing some of the stuff that you got to do. But
you would certainly be one of the people that would be in the pool of musicians. I remember at the time that I was there in the early and mid and late 70s and into the 80s, there were probably 600 musicians who did most all the work. And out of that, there were two dozen pianists that did the bulk of the work. You know, among them, Pete Jolly, Mike Lang, Claire Fisher, Ralph Gerson, myself, John Berkman, just, you know, then you had Randy Kerber and Randy Waldman came along later as I was leaving. But it was a rich time in terms of the variety of music you got to play. And it was mighty satisfying to be part of an orchestra, however big or small, and to play some really great music.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and to get to play as a keyboard player, get to play a lot of different instruments.
Right.
from Calliope. I
Mhm.
played Calliope on a film called Roller Coaster once, and then the pipe organ sometimes, and celeste, harpsichord, and the rest. But it was fun. A lot of,
Incredible.
yeah.
Hey, Bill, does that Howard Rumsey record, is it called In the Solo Spotlight?
Yes,
Yeah,
You found it.
that's
yeah, I found
yes.
it.
Therefore, the
Great.
dedications to various players on the record. Yeah,
Right. Stan, Coop, S&B, Claude, Concerto for Doghouse, Bud, the Whippet. That's this
yeah,
one.
right.
Cool.
Yeah, found it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, another one that I have to check out.
Yeah.
We have to check out.
Yeah, so I just posted in the chat, everybody, this I really enjoyed this all about jazz.com article that talks more about his film music experience and just going in depth and some funny stories uh, in there. Pia Zadora and Sarah Vaughan. There's some good
Hmm.
anecdotes and
Oh,
yeah,
they put the
so
Pia Zadora story up there.
Yeah.
it's in there.
Well, could I mention the book since we brought up
I
this
think you
story?
should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because the proceeds go to a good cause. Every cent goes to the Musicians Emergency Relief Fund. I wrote the book about 8 years ago, and it's a compendium of funny stories, in the studio, on the road, and lots of stories about Matt and Martin and our trio, and and funny stuff from the studios. So it's called Stories of the Road, Sidemen and Singers, and 55 years in the music business, which I had amassed at the time I wrote it. It's now 63 years.
It's pretty
Nice. Where's
impressive.
where's that available to buy, Bill?
Just on my website. It's not
Okay,
available on Amazon.
gotcha. So
And
I'll
the
make sure.
website is billmays.net.
Yes, I will be adding that as well. Thanks for that. Yeah. Look forward to reading it.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the maybe hopping over to some more stuff that's happening right now because you sent us something of an album that you're going to release.
It'll be coming out on Sunnyside Records in February, yes,
Nice,
called
nice.
Autumn Serenade, with bassist Dean Johnson and Ron Vincent on the drums.
Oh,
Okay,
very
never heard of them
nice.
both.
Yeah, is this Still Life? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Still Life, it's my original. Yeah, it's the
Great.
only original on the record. The rest
Okay.
are covers.
Well, so a little sneak preview. Looking forward to this. Check it out. Here we are with Bill Mays and Still Life from his upcoming record. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
gorgeous tune.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You get so much mileage out of that phrase, and how it overlaps with the
Yeah,
bassist at the end is so effective.
yeah. It's good to try to write something where you just take a sequence and develop it and not try to go too far. I wanted to write a simple and short tune
Yeah,
with simple melodic material. And this is the shortest album I've ever made. It's 46 minutes long. I wanted to do something with tracks under 5 minutes and see if I could make a statement that satisfied me and not do a 76-minute CD.
right.
Kind of an attitude like the old West Coast days, right?
Yeah,
Where
shorter
where
records.
the records were just 45
Yeah.
minutes long.
Or 35.
Yeah, 35.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah,
You had to think about your soloing in a different way back
Mhm.
in those days. Yeah. Right.
yeah. Wow, that's just beautiful. Thanks for sharing. When's the album out?
It'll be out in mid-February on Sunnyside Records,
Great.
and it'll be called Autumn Serenade.
That's wonderful.
So be
Yeah.
on the lookout for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll be getting that when it comes out. I can't wait. Wow.
What do we got?
Yeah, a couple more things.
Yeah.
Anything you want to particularly play? We have the someone was asking for the something from Road Work Ahead.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Mark
Yeah,
Isbell.
Mark Isbell. Thanks for watching, Mark. Yeah, should we do that one maybe or
What
something
do you
else?
have? Do you have an album there? Or what do you have?
No, I have. Where is it? Euterpe? Euterpe? The track you sent me?
Euterpe? Well,
Yeah.
that's another very slow melodic thing.
Yeah,
Is
maybe we
there
do something else instead, huh?
something else up tempo there? What
Yeah.
are some of the other titles? Um,
Oh, I don't know if I have this whole thing.
oh,
Yeah, I just have the one track right now. I need to find the others.
oh.
Maybe while I'm doing that, you can.
Yeah.
I'll look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have the very thought of you handy,
On that same record.
I think it's on the same record. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there you go. Intersection.
Intersection.
Yeah,
There it is. Great.
yeah, right, on Intersection.
You got a little
Yeah.
bit of commercials to skip.
Yeah, we'll skip one sec. We're loading that up. So tell us a little bit about this project, Bill.
Well, again, it's the Road Work Ahead Quartet that I was a co-leader. It was a co-op band. We all wrote for the band,
Right.
originals or arrangements, and guitar, bass, drums, and piano. And the other three lived in San Diego, and we had our first record in the 70s, the late 70s, and then came back together for some touring and a couple of other albums in more recent years.
Right.
And Peter Sprague played acoustic and electric guitar on these tracks, and wrote very beautiful and sometimes multi movement works for the band. I guess this track that you're getting up there is an old Ray Noble tune from the 40s called "The Very Thought of You." And I wanted to, again, think in terms of different colors. I gave the melody to the bass and the guitar and their low range, and gave the piece a straight eighth note feel, if I remember right, and reharmonized it, as you'll hear, but kept his, of course, his original melody intact.
Yes. Fantastic. Okay. Here we go. From the album Intersection, Road Work Ahead. Bill Mays, Peter Sprague, Bob Magnuson, and Jim Plank. Very Thought of You. Arranged by Bill, our special guest. very cool arrangement.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
beautiful.
Thank you. Great
Love that.
tune. Great tune.
It's such a great tune with a great melody, and I love the alternate changes and how it exposes different pieces of the song, even without the lyric, you know,
Hmm.
and very effective treatment of it. And wow, great solo. And Peter's one of my favorites. I love that guy. What a
Yeah,
brilliant soloist. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Deep, deep. Yeah. And
Wow.
Mag, what a great bassist. Boy,
Oh,
Oh yeah.
what a sound he got. What a sound.
Yep.
You know, he was a French horn player before he came to the bass, way, way back. And then he took up the electric bass first. I'm talking his teen years. His father was the principal clarinetist in the San Diego Symphony.
wow.
So he came, and his mother was a pianist. So he came from a musical family. And his
Mm.
brother-in-law was Bob Mays, the bass player,
Mm.
the late Bob
I
Mays.
didn't realize that's his brother. That was his brother-in-law.
Yeah, Bob Mays.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Bob. I got a chance to play with Bob a few times.
Oh, yeah,
Great.
yeah, yeah, sure
There
was.
was this gig down in Orange County. It was kind of early on for me, and I got to play with, Paul Krybeck and Luther Hughes and Bob Mays and Jack Prather and
Mm.
Putter Smith, and they all came through there. And I was a kid in a candy store. I mean, I was learning tunes like crazy. Steve Cotter, the great guitarist.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a awesome gig for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Mays. Yeah. Here's a strange band. I was on a jazz cruise once for Concord Records, and Carl Jefferson put together the band. It was Bob Mays, Jake Hanna on drums,
Ah,
self on piano, Jack Sheldon,
Woo!
Scott Hamilton, and Woody Herman.
What a band!
wow.
What a band. Talk about generations and stylistic
Oh my
differences.
gosh.
Yeah.
And of course, the hang in the bar with Woody after the concert was the best part of the cruise.
Yeah. Do you remember what kind of music you played with? You played with that band?
Tunes, we just called tunes. There were no arrangements. Everybody, I guess, was on the Concord. Yeah, everybody at the time was on the label, and Carl Jefferson put together this cruise a week long in Hawaii. We went from island to island. And so those folks that I just mentioned, we were all on the label, and he put that dream man together.
Mm. Yeah.
But between Jake Hanna's stories and Jack Sheldon's zany personality and
goodness.
Woody's stories, oh
Uh,
man, everybody, it was, oh boy, was that fun.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
big fans of Jack for sure.
Oh, how about the solo opening of the Sandpiper movie, The Shadow of Your Smile?
Forget
There you
it.
go.
Oh,
Jack playing, and listen, and I'll tell you, for Jack Sheldon fans or people who should be or would want to be, here's an album to check out: The High-Lows, Adventures in Harmony, arrangements by Marty Page. Bud Shank is playing baritone sax on that record,
ooh.
Mel Lewis on drums, and Claire Fisher's on piano. And Marty wrote all the charts, and Jack Sheldon is turning in some, drop dead gorgeous solos. And the
That's a
tune,
great album.
yeah, Lady in Red, Small Fry,
Yeah, Adventure. What's the name of it?
Adventures in, it's either Adventures in Harmony or Adventures in Jazz, and it came out under two different covers.
Right.
But if you just remember those tunes, The Lady in Red and Of Thee I Sing and Small Fry, those are three of the tunes on there that will tell you. And
I'm writing this down.
Yeah, write
to
it
do
down.
to do my homework.
Carl Saunders told me about that record.
Oh.
fabulous arranging, the way Marty worked the small band into the arrangements that Perling came up with with the high-lows, the way they melded it, it's just ingenious. It's a lesson in arranging. It's a lesson in vocal singing. And man, for my money, the high-lows were it. Without the high-lows, we wouldn't have had Take Six or Singers Unlimited or the Four Freshmen. Well, no, they actually were concurrent, but the high-lows, oh boy, what wonderful records.
Yeah.
that's worth checking out. You singers, anybody, you check out the high-lows.
Yeah, I believe that Claire Fisher was even like the musical director
Yeah.
for the High-Lows early in his
I
career.
think so, right?
Yeah, he did some writing for them. Yeah, and great arrangements down through the years by Frank DeVol comes to mind, and certainly Marty Page was some of the most interesting and modern sounding.
Did you get to work with Marty Page while you were out here?
Yeah, on some television shows.
Ah,
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's actually interestingly television. That's how I met J.J. Johnson and Benny Golson, and Oliver Nelson was playing on their scores for some TV shows, and then I eventually I played on 2 Benny Golson albums after he got back in the game. He had taken years off from playing, had concentrated on writing television, and then when he decided to pick up the horn again, he called me to be part of it. That first album was with Curtis Fuller and Oscar Brashear,
Yeah.
Benny and Roy McCurdy.
Yeah.
California Message, right?
California Message.
That's a great record. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, we can play something.
We
off
can,
of
yeah,
that.
let's play. Should we play
There's a nice track on there called California Message.
the title
Right.
track? Yeah, let's play that one. I got it ready to go here.
The studio didn't have a piano, so he asked me to bring my Fender Rhodes.
So I was already thinking because you're playing Fender Rhodes on that on
why
their album.
It was a small studio with no piano.
But it's a killing lineup with Thurman Green and Oscar Brashear, Roy McCurdy.
Oh, is it Thurman Green on that one?
Yeah.
We did 2 records, and Thurman was, and Curtis Fuller was on another one. Yeah.
But Curtis Fuller is on this one too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there were 2 trombones there.
Yeah, it seems so.
I'd forgotten that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, here we go. California Message.
Benny just coming back from years of not playing.
Yeah. Reemerging.
It's Benny Golson. No mistaking that sound.
Yeah. Here we go with Bill on Rhodes, Fender Rhodes. Oh.
Your laundry soap is destroying the...
Oh, thanks, YouTube. I have it here. Sorry about that, everybody.
Here we go.
great tune.
Yeah, and he could write them, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew how to write it. Wow.
Boy, think of his output,
Yeah.
Oh,
And he sounds amazing on this recording.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
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 I got a chance to play with him once, Bill, and it was at the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival in Idaho.
Oh yeah.
It was I'll never forget it. He comes up behind me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "Do you know a little song called Along Came Betty?" I think, gee,
Yeah.
I hope I know. I'm about to play it with the composer.
You hate to say no to that one.
Right? Oh my gosh. But he was so fiery. I mean, this is only, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And
Yeah.
he was still killing, man. Wow.
And he actually still is.
And still.
Yeah.
Well, he led a clean life,
Mm.
Right.
surrounded by a whole lot of folks that didn't, and they fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
Right. Good point.
Benny, along with Horace Silver, was one of the straight and narrow
Mm.
guys, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. A dear friend of ours and a mentor of ours, Jeff Hamilton, is also watching.
Oh,
And,
Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
He's saying, great memories with Mark and you. Also, remember your intro on Whistle While You Work?
Really? I don't know. Whistle while you were. I remember playing your wedding, Jeff, Lothies many years ago.
Yeah.
Looks like it worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
Whistle while you work. That's a great tune.
I don't know, Jeff. If you're still here, maybe you can.
Maybe you could whistle it for us.
Yeah.
Well,
Now there's a drummer
yeah,
and
absolutely.
a band leader and a man who can hang.
Oh yeah.
Storyteller. Boy, do I love Jeff Hamilton and his trio.
Yeah.
You know, I get into different kicks. We all do. And I got on one the other about 2-3 months ago. It was nothing but Jeff's trio on the turntable for a few days.
Mm.
Wonderful.
So good, right? Yeah.
Those parts that Tamir does and
Oh yeah.
Jeff's inventiveness. Oh, the
Oh.
memories. Yeah.
You just responded.
Oh yeah. Wedding bands was Burke, so I'm guessing that's Dick Burke, Scott Colley, and you.
Scott Colley. Wow, he was a kid then. He was studying with Monty Budwig.
Right.
Yeah.
You couldn't get anybody good for your wedding bands, Jeff.
That reminds me of a funny story. When I first moved to New York, Mel Lewis called me to do a club date. And I said, Mel, I did casuals when I was in California, and I don't really want to get into that scene. He says, Bill, just say yes. You'll be happily surprised. And the money's good. So I show up, and there's Bill Crow on bass, Eddie Burt on trombone.
Woo.
I believe Eddie Daniels was on clarinet and sax, and Mel.
Wow.
And I said, well, yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that brings up kind of an interesting point that I noticed when I moved to New York. There was, unlike Los Angeles was at the time, there was no sort of this camp of recording musicians and this camp of jazzers and this camp of club date. They were all intermingled in New York, whereas out in California, you had people in the studios that mostly they just did that. And, you know, Dennis Budemer and DeMonico come to mind right off the bat of guys who were wonderful jazz players, but they wouldn't go out and play jazz gigs. They said, that's what I do. I'm a studio player. I just zone in on that. And, you know, there wasn't this mixing of the camps.
Right.
Like
that too. Sip was more of a studio musician than actually a gigging performer.
Who was?
Gene Cipriano.
Oh, Sip, yeah. But boy, could he was a great improviser. Still is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We had him with the big band a few times, and the first time that we had him with the big band, we played some of Henry Mancini stuff, and I say, Sip, you want to play a solo on this? And he goes, no jazz. He didn't want to play any solos. He just wanted to play ensemble
Art.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, he was a character.
And, Jeff Hamilton says, "Love you too, Wilkie."
Okay, we'll hang and talk about that. I won't smoke a cigar or drink scotch with you anymore, though. I've got to watch my health.
Yeah. But man, that gig with Mel Lewis. I mean, Mel
Yeah.
is my all-time favorite guy. You know, like the all-time favorite drummer, and you know his influence on the whole West Coast scene with all of the drummers is so huge. What a legacy he left, and then he moved back to New York to play with Mulligan and started the band with Thad right after that. So
Yeah.
that's just incredible. And
Yeah,
I mean, to me, like the greatest ensemble player that has ever walked this earth.
what a lesson in simplicity and how it works and setting up big band figures, for example.
Mhm.
You know, one of the first gigs I played in New York, I called Mel to do a trio gig with Rufus Reed, and the money was terrible, but you know, Mel was such a mensch. He just wanted to play, he didn't care. And we're playing at the Angry Squire, and I just thought I'd give it a shot. I says, Mel, let's play Body and Soul. You got the melody. 2, 3, 4. And he played the whole first chorus, and he knew the melody, and he played everything on the drum kit and played the melody of Body and Soul. It was just gorgeous. So drummers learn the melodies of tunes.
Ain't that the
They're
truth?
responsible too.
Ain't that the truth?
The first time I heard you live, it was at Port Townsend Jazz Centrum
Oh, up in Washington State.
in Washington State, and Steve Wilson was playing sax. And there was a bar hang afterwards, and I was watching you play, and I was mesmerized, of course, and a fan ever since. But the drummer, it was a young guy. I don't think you knew him, and he was taking us. So you guys were trading, and he did something so melodic, and you just yell into the room. You said, the drummer's playing the melody. And everyone kind of cheered, and it was such a great moment to watch just that, you know, and students were there, and seasoned folks, and I'll never forget that moment when you did.
Oh, that's funny. Well, yeah, take note. Yeah.
I am.
He's a very melodic cat, this one on drums. Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
that was a great jazz camp, Centrum.
Sure was. John Clayton, artistic director.
And Bud Shank, before John was there, was the director of that.
It's still happening.
Yeah, it's still going. Yeah. Well, Bill, this has been so good. We could keep talking to you forever, but I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know there's an important tennis match happening too.
And Nadal and Federer are on the same side of the net playing doubles in England right now. It's Federer's last appearance.
Yeah.
It has been a ball to be on with you guys.
Oh, man.
I love what you do. Thank you so much for what you bring to the jazz community in terms of entertainment and education. It's much needed, and I appreciate you very much.
Of course. Yeah, we appreciate you, Bill, for everything that you've done over the years, all of the recordings that you made, and all of the wisdom and experiences that you've shared with us today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, and for those who have joined us, thank you so much for supporting the show. And in the chat window, you can find Bill's website, billmays.net, and also that interview, which is very cool, all about jazz. And his new record will be out in February, so stay tuned for all his stuff. But thanks once again, Bill. What a joy and pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And a small plug for everybody out on the Facebook realm. We have a show with the big band coming up again at Vibrato on October 6th. And we're going to do a small tribute to the great Shorty Rogers, because we've gotten our hands on all kinds of arrangements that haven't been played in years. So we're super excited for that. So come and see the Big Band, West Coast Jazz Hour Big Band on October 6th at Vibrato.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks again, Bill.
Bye, everybody.